Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me again. Today we're going to be talking about a highly nutritious, nutrient-dense superfood that probably is growing wild all around you. Come on and let's take a look. So this is an interesting time of year because our garden's not really producing yet. We've had quite a bit of cold weather here in southern Ontario, and even our kale are just still little babies at this point. So we're relying a lot on foraging and eating wild greens. And so the superfood that I was talking to you about are spring nettles. And I'll get you to come and take a nice close look. So these here are springtime nettles, and these are the perfect nettles for foraging and eating. You want to get them when they're young because once nettles flower, they are really high in something called oxalic acid, which is really irritating to the kidneys. So while it makes excellent medicine that time of year, it's not really something you want to be eating in large quantities. Spring nettles, however, are much lower in oxalic acid and aren't going to be nearly as irritating to the kidneys, and it makes them perfect as a sauteed green. So whenever you're working with nettles, as soon as they're exposed to heat, and that's boiling, sauteing, once they're exposed to oxygen, the sting is gone. So we'll be able to saute these up and eat them for dinner. So when it comes to harvesting your spring nettles, the easiest thing to work with is a pair of scissors. And you're absolutely going to want to wear rubber-tipped gloves. Fabric gloves are not good enough. They're going to sting you right through that. So you want to be careful. And all I'm going to do is take my scissors, and it's just my husband and I are going to be eating these, so I'll probably have just a small portion, the upper part of the nettle, trim it off, and cut them and put them in. I don't want to decimate all of my nettle patches too much. I have quite a few of them, so I'll harvest a few from each. And once I have what looks to be about a serving size, you'll join me in the kitchen and I'll show you how we'll prepare them. All right, so I brought my nettles inside, and I'm still using my gloves. Until we start cooking our nettles, you're definitely going to want to wear gloves of some kind. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pick the leaves off. You can eat the stems. We find them a little chewy. If I make pesto, I just blanch it all and I keep the stems in with the pesto. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the nutrition content. I'm also correct an error. In the last clip, I talked about nettles being exposed to oxygen will get rid of the stem or the sting. What I meant to say was alcohol or vinegar. Oxygen obviously doesn't help get rid of the sting at all. But if you saute the leaves, you cook them in any way, shape, or form, boil them like making a tea, or expose them to vinegar or alcohol, the sting goes away. But like I said, I want to talk to you about the nutrition in nettles. These guys are powerhouses in terms of nutrition. In 1 cup of stinging nettle leaves, you're going to get anywhere from 7 to 17% of your daily iron, which is amazing. This is going to depend on what your iron requirements are based on your age and gender. You're going to get anywhere from 33 to 43% of your daily calcium amounts. It's also really, really high in vitamin A, upwards of 18,000 IU vitamin A. It's also really high in vitamin D. There's actually a much shorter list of minerals and nutrients that nettle is, doesn't shine with. It's pretty much high in every macro and micronutrient that our body needs, including protein. One thing it's not high in is saturated fats or cholesterol of any kind, and even the caloric content is pretty low. So you're getting a highly nutrient dense food without having to consume a whole ton of calories. So I'm going to continue to pull the leaves off my nettle, and then I'll give them a very quick wash and a spin in our salad spinner, and then I'll take you over to the stove and show you how we are going to prepare them for dinner. All right, so I'm ready to start cooking up my nettles. I'm just going to lightly saute them. So if you've ever sauteed greens before, this would be the exact same process. And you can use, you definitely want to use a fat of some kind. I prefer using butter. Ghee would also be another really nice option for you. You could use coconut oil. We've used sesame oil before, so I'm just going to melt the butter. I probably should have started that process. I really like using cast iron because we're also going to get more iron content in our food from using cast iron. Plus I don't have to worry about any of those, chemical non-stick surfaces. So you just want to melt your fat source, whatever that may be. Ghee is something I really want to get into. Maybe I'll do a future video on how to use the sun oven to make ghee. Let me know if you'd like to see that, because I've learned that from watching other homesteaders. And then I'm just gonna dump in the nettles, and I'm just gonna lightly saute them. They'll probably shrink at least half in size. You just want to make sure they get nicely cooked well. So like I said, you can do this with any wild spring green. You can do this with dandelion greens. Some folks really like eating trout lily greens. You can do a mixture, of course, and you can use this exact same process for things like kale and chard and collards or any of the other types of greens you like to eat. Just eat your greens because they're good for you. And once these have sauteed up and start looking delicious to eat, I'll probably just do a few cracks of Himalayan sea salt on them, maybe a little bit of pepper, and call it done. We really like to keep it simple and let the flavor of the nettles shine through. Other ways to enjoy them, like I said, would be with something like sesame oil and some soy sauce. That would be a really nice option too. Or you can just cook them up with whatever fat source you prefer cooking it. So once these are all done, I'll show you what they look like, and then we're gonna get eating dinner. All right, so our nettles are done. If you decide to blanch your nettles before cooking them, you really only need to saute them for about 2 minutes. But if you're gonna blanch them first, which is perfectly fine to do, you wanna make sure you wring out as much of that water as possible. If you just wash them like we did, you're probably gonna wanna saute them for about 5 minutes just to make sure that sting is gone. So right now, all that's in here is some butter and nettles, but they look absolutely delicious. As you can see, they shrunk up quite a bit. I'll lightly salt them once we're ready to eat, but I can't wait to at least try them. They're so delicious. You know, stinging nettle gets such a bad reputation, and it is such an amazing, abundant wild food that I highly encourage you looking for and adding to your diet. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you checking out these videos and spending some time with me. If you like my content, you can subscribe. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that jazz. You can find me there. And until next time, this is Correne from Spirea Herbs.